speaking of those Atascocita Eagles, we are now joined on the phone, on the VYPE hotline, by head coach David Martinez of those Atascocita Eagles. And Coach, how's this season been so far? You're number 2 team in the state. You've played 13 games, which I know is a lot less than you're used to at this point. But how has it kind of gone for y'all so far?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. But as far as the season's gone, it's been fine. I mean, we've been kind of plowing through. It's very, very difficult during this time. And we've been pretty fortunate for the most part, but we still have a ways to go. So, job's never done.
That's right, Coach Martinez. This is Sky. How's it been handling your team through this time? Because games are constantly getting rescheduled and whatnot. What's your message to the players as you navigate this season?
And I just try to tell them. I try to reiterate every day, every time I see them. Let's do all that we can so that we can keep the season going. And that means we got to sanitize and keep a mask on when we practice and when we play. And we're constantly telling them to wash their hands. It helps somewhat, and we're just trying to minimize just minimize us being exposed to it. And so you just do little things like that. And that's really all you can do. You keep your social distancing. You don't gather in rooms and things of that nature. For the most part, we try to meet out in open space for whatever that's worth. We're just trying to do our part. I don't know that I have the answers. I just hope and pray that we get to the end of this soon.
What have you liked about this team? I mean, you've had so many good teams and good players that have come through. I mean, including Carson Edwards a few years ago, who's now with the Boston Celtics. Talk about, what do you like about the makeup of this team and the guys that you have in that locker room right now?
Well, for starters, they all like each other, and that's always a big piece. This group is close knit. The core of the group came in together, and we got about half and half, juniors and seniors, and the juniors have good leaders to look up to, and they kind of fall in line. But that senior group has been with me for a while. I've known them for a long time. I followed them in middle school, and they've been coming to my camp since they were little kids. And they truly and genuinely care for one another, and I think that's a big part of our success. They've also been through a lot. I mean, they've been in the playoffs before. They've been in big games. We lost a tough one last year in the third round to Dickinson, and those kids have to feel that experience, and I think they were better for it because of that. So, but overall, it's just a good group of kids. They're very coachable. They do everything I ask them to do, and I'm just trying to put them in position to win every game.
That's right, Coach. So you mentioned you've been able to learn some of the lessons. What were some of those lessons that you learned from last season that you've been able to translate to this year?
Well, I mean, sometimes no matter how good a team you have, sometimes you still have to go through the fire. And I've been doing this a long time, and I know that. I mean, no matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, sometimes it's just not your year. And we ran into a team, Dickinson last year, who had struggled in the playoffs the previous 3 years. And, Tremont Mark and Marcus Williams and those guys, now they were seniors. And you can tell the second half of the Dickinson game in the third round of playoffs last year, you saw a totally different team. And I honestly didn't think there was anybody that could beat them from that point. I mean, they literally turned it on. That's the best I saw them play. That second half of basketball and the 2 games in the regional tournament, and they didn't get to play in the state tournament, obviously, but I really thought they were on to something. So going through the fire is one, experience is another. When the senior group was sophomores for me, only 2 of them got to play in a playoff game. And we lost at the buzzer to Beaumont United, and only 2 of the sophomores played. And then last year, all of them got to play and had a big piece of it. And then this year, with all of them having that experience, and then the 2 from the previous year, I think it's just kind of all coming together for them. They've been there quite a bit now. They know what to expect from a big game. They know how to they understand what executing in practice and in games is like. And I don't know. I think all those things help us. That experience has really helped this team.
Talking right now with Coach David Martinez, head coach of the Atascocita Eagles, the number 2 team in the most recent TABC hoops rankings at 13-0. And Coach, I mean, a few years ago, I've been around your program for quite a few years now. Back in 2016, y'all made that run all the way to the state championship game, and that group was close knit, and we knew they were tight. I know it's still early, but do you see some similarities between that 2016 group or 2015, 2016 group that made the state and this one, just kind of how they're playing right now?
I do. I really do. Um, our style of play is very similar to that team, and it has to do with guys on that team being willing passers. Now, the difference between that team is we didn't have a pro. We don't have a pro this year like we did in that year, and I think we have two of them. If we get lucky, we'll get two. Carson obviously is already in the NBA, and Fabian, he had an injury this year, and I do think he has a chance to make money somewhere at some time. So we don't have anybody like that, but what we do have is we have depth. We have togetherness. We have some grit on this team, and this team battles. And very similar to that 2016 team where they refused to lose. And that reminds me of them a lot. We don't the ball doesn't stick with this group. We kind of had a couple years in the middle where the ball I wasn't pleased with what we were doing offensively. The ball just stuck in one person's hands too long, and so we're back to doing the things Atascocita does and playing Atascocita basketball with a lot of movement and some pressure defense, and it just kind of worked for us.
Yeah, it's one of those things, over the years, the golden years, like for instance of the San Antonio Spurs when they had Duncan and Parker and Ginobili and that crew. I mean, they moved the ball around so much. I know a lot of coaches like to see that. I mean, is that enjoyable for you right now? That, I mean, like you said, it's kind of back to the Atascocita way of things of moving the ball around. Are you enjoying this year seeing that ball move around as much as it is?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, that's who we are. That's how I coach. That's how I coach them in practice. And when you go out there and you see them move the ball the way they do, and just find the open guy, it doesn't matter who scores, and not really caring who's getting all that. It's a really beautiful thing, and it changes every year. I mean, it's easy to say, it's all about personnel, what type of kids you got, and we've had some great kids come through here, in between those years. But if you get a majority of them that think that way and are playing and pulling for the team, that's the results you get. Just like the Spurs, Spurs changed personnel a little bit. Look what happens. The ball sticks a little more or win as many games. They're not final conference. But I think personnel has a lot to do with it. And on top of that, the experience that those guys have with each other, winning games in that style, that has a lot to do with it. So I don't know. It's just from my observation. I mean, we've had some really good teams here. We won a lot of games with the teams in between 2016 and now. I mean, just as many games, So it's just different. Every team is different, and you try. I go into each and every year trying to figure out how good can I make this year's team. That's kind of my goal. I want to see how good we can make them. And this team is rolling right now, and we're kind of enjoying it. So we want to keep it going.
Before we let you go, you mentioned make this team as good as it can be. As you sit there here, and I know for sure y'all have not played as many games as you usually would have at this point of the season. And so as you go through the rest of district play here over the next month or so and then get into the playoffs, what do you want to see this team get better at to be that best team that you think this group can be?
That's a great question. It's actually something me and my staff have been talking about lately. We're just trying to improve. We're trying to find areas in our game where we can improve. We've been shorthanded for the most of the year for a couple of reasons. One, injury, and also football season being pushed back. So if you watch this play at the beginning of the year, we didn't have we didn't have any size, and we're playing real well. Well, all of a sudden, now we've got three guys between 6'5" and 6'7", just like that. So working those guys in, trying to find a role for them on the team, that's kind of our biggest challenge right now. Because I think now we have enough size now to compete at a really, really high level. We just got to get those guys going. So it's coming. I mean, they've been with us about 2 weeks now, so it's coming.
All right, he is David Martinez. He's the head coach of the Atascocita Eagles, 13-0, number 2 in the state. Coach, hey, we appreciate the time. We always appreciate you talking with us over here at VYPE, and I'm going to have to make my way out there to a Atascocita game to come see you and the Eagles at some point here in the next few weeks.
My pleasure, Josh. Good talking to you.
What's up, everybody? Hey, if you love that video, go like it, comment, and also spike it, the subscribe button, to follow all of our videos on our YouTube channel to keep up with all of the great content we're pushing out on a daily basis.